The house smelled of cinnamon and roasted turkey, laughter spilling from the dining room as plates clattered and glasses chimed together. It was Christmas evening, the one time of the year when the whole family gathered under one roof. The tree glittered with gold lights in the corner, presents stacked neatly beneath it. Everyone was smiling, or at least pretending to, and for a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, this year would feel different. I sat at the long wooden table between my father, who hadn't said much all evening, and my younger brother Daniel, who had just finished bragging about his new promotion. My mother leaned in close, her eyes shining with pride at him, nodding with every word he spoke. The whole table listened, clapping when he told them about his bonus, his new apartment, and even the car he had just bought. When the noise quieted down, my mother turned to me. Her smile faded, her voice sharpened, and the words left her mouth like a knife. "We're ashamed of you." The room went silent. Forks stopped moving, glasses froze midair. My chest tightened, heat rising up the back of my neck. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I sat there, staring at her, while her words echoed in my head. Ashamed. Ashamed of me. Daniel smirked a little, his hand casually adjusting his watch, as if he had been waiting for this moment. My sister glanced at me, then quickly looked down at her plate, refusing to meet my eyes. Even my father cleared his throat but said nothing, his silence heavier than any insult. I forced a small smile, the kind that hides hurt. "Merry Christmas," I whispered under my breath, though no one seemed to hear. Inside, though, my thoughts screamed. I wanted to shout, to ask her why she would say that in front of everyone. I wanted to remind her of all the nights I had stayed up helping in this house, the sacrifices I had made, the battles I had fought silently while no one noticed. But my tongue was frozen, my jaw locked. Instead, I just sat there, listening as the noise returned slowly to the table, though lighter now, cautious. My mother went back to laughing at Daniel's jokes, serving extra potatoes onto his plate, as if she hadn't just broken me in half with her words. The turkey grew cold in front of me. I couldn't taste anything, couldn't hear the music anymore. All I could feel was the boiling inside me, a storm pressing against my chest, threatening to spill out. I knew then that I couldn't stay silent forever. Not tonight. Not after this. My name is Ethan Carter, and if I am honest, life has not been kind to me these past few years. I am 32, but some days I feel much older. I wake up and wonder how I got here, how the boy who once dreamed so big ended up being the man his own mother says she's ashamed of. It wasn't always like this. In college, I had plans. I wanted to build a career in graphic design, maybe even start my own creative agency. I worked hard, took internships, even stayed up nights teaching myself new software. Back then, I thought the world was wide open for me, but reality has a way of closing doors one after the other. After graduation, I landed a decent job at a small marketing firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. I poured myself into it, hoping to climb higher. Then, the company downsized during a recession, and just like that, I was out. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd find something better soon. But months turned into years. I worked odd jobs, bartending, delivery driving, freelance gigs that paid too little to survive on. Each rejection email from companies cut deeper, telling me I wasn't good enough. And then there was Anna. She was my girlfriend of 4 years, the one person who made me believe things could get better. We had talked about marriage once, about kids and a house with a backyard. But when I couldn't provide the stability she wanted, she walked away. She didn't say it was because of money, but her silence said everything. One day she just packed her things and left. Losing her felt like losing the last piece of hope I had been holding on to. Bills piled up. Credit card debt grew. I moved back into a small apartment that smelled of mold and old paint. My car broke down, and I couldn't afford to fix it. I started taking the bus everywhere, staring out the window and wondering if this was all my life would ever be. Through all this, my family never made it easier. My mother, especially, had a sharp way of reminding me how far I had fallen. She didn't have to say much. Her tone, her sighs, her long glances at me when Daniel or my sister Jessica talked about their lives were in. Daniel became a lawyer at 27, with a shiny office downtown and a fiancé from a well-off family. Jessica married young, has 2 kids, and posts smiling pictures of her perfect little life every week. My mother beams at them, brags to neighbors about their successes, and proudly tells anyone who will listen that her children are thriving. But when it comes to me, I'm always the shadow. At family gatherings, she introduces me with hesitation, her voice softer, as if embarrassed to say my name. She compares me without mercy. "Why can't you be more like Daniel?" Or, "Even Jessica is doing better than you, and she has kids to raise." Each word slices at me, and even though I try to act like I don't care, I carry those cuts everywhere. My father doesn't say much. He sits quietly, reading his newspaper or scrolling on his phone, pretending not to notice the way I'm treated. Sometimes I wonder if he feels sorry for me or if he simply agrees with her. Either way, his silence weighs heavy on me. I carry guilt too. Guilt that maybe they're right, that maybe I wasted too much time chasing dreams that didn't work out. Guilt that I couldn't hold on to Anna, that I let myself sink into debt, that I couldn't give my parents the kind of son they could be proud of. And beneath that guilt, there's anger. Anger at myself, anger at them, anger at a world that never gave me the break I worked so hard for. But I've never said any of this out loud. I've swallowed it all, year after year, nodding quietly at their remarks, trying to keep the peace. I told myself that one day I'd turn it all around, and then they'd finally see me differently. One day I'd prove them wrong. But as the years went by, proving them wrong felt less and less possible. So when my mother looked across the Christmas table and told me, in front of everyone, that they were ashamed of me, it wasn't just one comment. It was every disappointment, every judgment, every scar piled on top of each other. And though I sat silent in that moment, something inside me shifted. Daniel leaned back in his chair, a glass of red wine in his hand, and grinned as he talked about his new office downtown. "The firm just gave me my own team," he said proudly, his voice loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. "We closed a deal last week worth almost $5 million. My boss said I'm on track to make partner within the next 2 years." The table clapped, everyone smiling at him like he was some kind of celebrity. My mother's face glowed with pride. She reached over and patted his hand, her voice full of warmth. "That's my son," she said, laughing. "I always knew you'd make it big, Daniel. You've made this family so proud." I sat there, pushing peas around my plate, listening to the applause that would never be mine. Jessica leaned in, her eyes shining. "Daniel, that's amazing. You've always been the golden child," she teased, though the admiration in her voice was real. Her husband chuckled and raised his glass to toast him. Then, as if she had been waiting for the moment, my mother turned her eyes on me. The warmth she had for Daniel vanished, replaced by something colder. "And then we have Ethan," she said. She didn't even bother to soften her tone. 32 years old, still struggling to find his way. "Look at your brother, Ethan. Same parents, same upbringing, but he chose discipline. He chose success. What did you choose?" The words cut deep. My fork froze in my hand. My father shifted in his chair, but said nothing. Jessica kept her eyes on her plate again, pretending she didn't hear. Daniel gave me that smirk, the same one he had since we were kids. "It's about priorities, Ethan," he said smoothly. "You always wanted to chase dreams that didn't pay off. You should have focused on stability. Like Mom always said, work hard, keep your head straight, and you'll succeed. It's not that complicated." Laughter rippled around the table. I felt my chest burn. My throat was tight, but I forced myself to swallow the anger pressing at the edges. I had been silent for so long. I had let them walk over me, compare me, humiliate me. But tonight, something inside me felt different. As Daniel poured himself another drink and continued bragging, my mother leaned closer to my father and whispered something. I caught the words "such a disappointment," though she probably thought I didn't hear. That was when the thought hit me, sharp and sudden. I had kept quiet for years about things I knew, things this family hid behind closed doors. Secrets they would never dare speak aloud at a dinner table. My eyes lingered on my father. He shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his tie even though he wasn't wearing one tonight. It was a small habit of his whenever he felt nervous. My mother noticed my gaze and frowned, her jaw tightening. "Don't look at your father like that," she snapped. "You've embarrassed him enough with your failures. The least you could do is respect him." Respect. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. They wanted me to respect them while they crushed me under their judgment. They wanted me to keep their secrets while they paraded Daniel's success in front of me. Daniel laughed again, bragging about his new apartment and how he was already considering buying a house. My mother beamed, and Jessica clapped her hand. I sat still, my mind racing, my chest rising and falling with each heavy breath. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel weak. I felt the weight of truth pressing at my lips, daring me to let it out. I glanced around the table, my family so sure of themselves, so comfortable in their perfect little story where Daniel was the hero, Jessica was the picture of stability, and I was the failure. But they had no idea that the failure they mocked knew something that could turn this whole dinner upside down. I set my fork down slowly, the clink against the plate echoing louder than it should have. My mother looked at me, ready to scold again. But this time I didn't lower my head. This time I met her eyes, and though I didn't speak yet, something inside me. The room was buzzing again with laughter and the clinking of glasses, but I could barely hear any of it. My chest was tight, my palms damp against the edge of the table. I had sat through enough dinners where my voice meant nothing, where my silence kept the peace while their words cut me apart. But tonight, my silence felt heavier than anything I could say. I cleared my throat, and the sound made everyone look at me. For a second, I almost backed down. But then I saw Daniel's smug grin, my mother's judging eyes, my father's silence, and I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. You know, I said slowly, my voice low but steady. I'm tired of sitting here pretending like everything is fine. I'm tired of acting like this family is perfect when it's not. The room froze. Daniel set down his glass, raising an eyebrow. Jessica frowned, already defensive. My mother's eyes narrowed like knives. What are you talking about, Ethan? She asked sharply. This is Christmas dinner. Don't ruin it with your nonsense. I laughed bitterly. Ruin it? You've already done that. You call me a disappointment in front of everyone. You compare me to Daniel every chance you get, and you expect me to just smile and swallow it. Well, I'm done swallowing it. Jessica leaned forward, her tone sharp. Don't start this again, Ethan. Mom only wants what's best for you. If you had made better choices, you wouldn't feel this way. Better choices? My voice cracked with anger. Like what? Like working 2 jobs just to keep food on my table while you all turned your backs on me? Like holding Anna's hand when she cried at night, only to have her leave me because she couldn't stand the way my own family treated me? You don't know what it's like to fight every single day just to keep your head above water, while the people who are supposed to love you keep pushing you on. Daniel chuckled, shaking his head. Always the victim, huh, Ethan? It's never your fault. Life just dealt you a bad hand, right? Grow up. Stop blaming everyone else. My jaw clenched. Easy for you to say, Daniel. You've always had everything handed to you. Mom and Dad made sure of it. That got their attention. My mother's face tightened. Don't you dare start with that. Your brother worked hard for everything he has. Worked hard. I shot back. Do you want me to remind everyone about the internship he got because Dad pulled strings with his old college friend? Or the down payment on his apartment that came straight out of the money Grandma left all of us? Except I never saw a dime of it. Jessica gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Daniel's smirk faded. My father shifted again, his silence louder than ever. Enough, my mother snapped, slamming her hand on the table. You will not sit here and disrespect your family on Christmas. I felt my hands shaking, but I didn't stop. Disrespect? You've disrespected me my entire life. Do you remember when I won that art contest in high school? The one where my work was displayed downtown? You didn't even come to see it. You said it was a waste of time because it wouldn't make me money. But when Daniel scored a single goal in soccer, you threw him a party. Do you remember that? Jessica looked down at her plate, uncomfortable. Daniel scoffed. That was years ago. Let it go. I stared at him, anger rising in my throat. I can't let it go, Daniel, because it never stopped. It's been years of the same thing. Me being treated like the failure, you being the golden boy, and Jessica being the example of stability. And you know what hurts the most? Dad never once stood up for me. Not once. All eyes turned to my father. He shifted again but said nothing, his lips pressed in a thin line. His silence was like a weight pressing against my chest, heavier than any word he could have spoken. I leaned forward, my voice trembling. Do you know what it feels like to beg for your father's approval and never get it? To see him nod and smile at everyone else, but never at you? To realize that the one person who should have been your shield was just another wall in front of you. My mother's voice cracked like a whip. That's enough, Ethan. But I didn't stop. Years of being pushed down came rushing out, and I couldn't hold them back anymore. Do you remember the time I couldn't pay rent, and I came to you for help? You turned me away. You said I needed to learn responsibility. But when Daniel needed money for his first car, you didn't hesitate. You wrote the check that same night. Do you know how it felt to walk back to my empty apartment with eviction papers on my door, knowing my own parents didn't care if I ended up on the street? Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but she stayed quiet. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, tapping his glass. My mother glared at me, her lips pressed so tightly together they turned white. I felt the air grow heavier, my chest pounding. I had carried these stories for years, and now they were spilling out like floodwater. I kept your secrets, I said finally, my voice low but sharp. I stayed silent while you pretended this family was perfect. But you're not perfect. None of you. And I'm done carrying the shame you've put on me. The table was silent. Even the sound of the clock in the hallway seemed louder than our breathing. My father stared at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. My mother's hand trembled against her glass. Daniel leaned back, but his smirk was gone. I could feel the storm building, the truth pressing harder against me, daring me to finish what I had started. And I knew in that moment, I was only just getting started. The silence stretched long at the table, every eye fixed on me, waiting to see if I would back down. My hands were trembling, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel weak. I felt steady, like the truth inside me was finally stronger than their judgment. You all sit here pretending this family is perfect, I said, my voice cutting through the heavy air. But I know things. I've kept my mouth shut for years because I thought it wasn't my place. But maybe it's time you all hear the truth. My mother stiffened, her fork clattering against her plate. Ethan, stop this right now. I shook my head. No, not this time. Daniel leaned back, his arms crossed, trying to look calm, but his jaw was tight. Jessica looked between us nervously, sensing something was about to break open. My father still stared at the table, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. I took a deep breath. You want to talk about shame? Let's talk about shame. Daniel, you walk around bragging about your success, about how hard you've worked. But I know that the down payment on your fancy apartment didn't just come from Grandma's money. I know Mom and Dad pulled money out of Dad's retirement fund to cover the rest. Money they told me didn't exist when I begged for help. Daniel's face flushed red. That's not true, he snapped, but his voice cracked. It is true, I said firmly. I was there when Dad's financial advisor called the house, asking about the withdrawal. Mom, you lied to my face when I asked you if there was anything you could do to help me. You said things were tight, but the truth was you chose him over me. Again. Jessica gasped, covering her mouth. My mother shot a look at my father, her face pale now. Don't you dare bring that up, Ethan, she hissed. I leaned forward, my voice shaking with anger. And that's not all. Daniel, you brag about being on track to make partner. But tell everyone here how you almost lost your job last year because of the firm's money you mishandled. Who bailed you out? Dad. Who called in favors with his old contacts to keep your name clean. Dad. But to the world, you're the golden boy. And me? I'm the disappointment. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. Shut up, Ethan. His face was red now, veins standing out in his neck. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about, I said. My voice grew louder. And Mom, you cover for him, don't you? You've always covered for him. Just like you covered for Dad. My father finally looked up, his face pale. My mother's head whipped toward me, her voice trembling with anger. Don't you dare. But it was too late. The words were already at the edge of my tongue. You think I don't know about the affair? I said quietly, but the words hit like thunder. The room froze. Do you think I didn't see Dad slipping out late at night when I was still living at home? Do you think I didn't hear the phone calls, the messages? Do you think I didn't notice when you cried alone in the kitchen, Mom, pretending it was about something else? I was there. I saw it. I just never said anything. Jessica gasped so loudly it echoed. Her husband's fork dropped against his plate with a loud clink. Daniel's face twisted with disbelief. My mother's lips trembled, her eyes flashing with fury and pain. My father sat back, his face gray, his mouth opening and closing like he wanted to speak but couldn't. Tears welled up in Jessica's eyes. Is it true? She whispered, looking at my father. He didn't answer. My mother shot to her feet, pointing at me with a shaking hand. You're lying. You're trying to destroy this family. Because you're bitter. That's all you've ever been, bitter. I rose to my feet too, my voice booming louder than I ever thought I could manage. No, Mom. I'm not lying. I've lived in this house, in this family, long enough to see the cracks you've all tried to hide. You made me carry the shame for years, like I was the only broken one here. But I'm not. We all are. And maybe it's time you admit it. My father finally spoke, his voice low and broken. Ethan, please. Please what? I snapped. Please stay silent like you've always wanted me to. Please keep covering up the truth so everyone else can keep pretending. I shook my head. I'm done being the scapegoat for this family. I won't carry your secrets anymore. Jessica's tears streamed down her face. Daniel looked shaken, no longer smug, his jaw working as he tried to think of something to say. My mother's face was streaked with fury, her hands trembling so hard she could barely hold onto the chair. My father sank lower into his seat, defeated, as though the truth had knocked the air right out of him. The room felt like it was spinning, the lights on the Christmas tree flickering in the corner like they were mocking us. The smell of turkey and cinnamon felt heavy now, almost sour. No one spoke. No one moved. The perfect picture of the Carter family had shattered right there at the dinner table, broken beyond repair. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel ashamed. I felt free. The table was still. No one touched their food. No one spoke. The lights from the Christmas tree blinked quietly in the corner, but the warmth of the room had drained away, leaving only cold air and heavy silence. I stood there, breathing hard, my heart racing. For years I had wanted their approval, begged for their acceptance, starved for even the smallest piece of love that felt equal to what they gave my sibling. And for years I carried shame that didn't belong to me. Tonight I had laid it all out. The secrets, the favoritism, the lies. And in the silence, I realized something. Their approval was never going to come. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how many times I tried to prove myself, it would never be enough for them. Because the problem wasn't me. The problem was them. I looked at Daniel. His face was pale, his hands gripping his glass like it might steady him. Jessica sat frozen, tears streaming quietly down her face. My father couldn't even look at me, and my mother stood stiff, still shaking with anger. They were all caught in the wreckage of their own making. I felt lighter. I pushed my chair back slowly. The sound of the legs scraping against the wooden floor made everyone flinch. "I'm done," I said softly. "I'm done trying to make you proud. I'm done begging to be seen. If all you see when you look at me is shame, then that's your burden, not mine." My mother's mouth opened, ready to fight back, but I held up my hand. "No, don't. I've said what I needed to say. For once, you're going to sit with the truth, even if it makes you uncomfortable." I grabbed my coat from the back of the chair. The room felt heavy, but my chest felt strangely clear. As I slipped my arms through the sleeves, I glanced at my father one last time. He still couldn't meet my eyes. Maybe he never would. And for the first time, I realized I could live with that. Jessica whispered my name as I walked toward the door, but I didn't turn back. My steps felt steady, like I was walking out of more than just the dining room. I was walking out of years of shame, years of silence, years of carrying their weight on my shoulders. Outside, the night air hit me, cold and sharp. Snow crunched beneath my shoes. The world was quiet, peaceful, untouched by the storm that had just torn through our family dinner. I stood there for a moment, staring up at the sky, the stars blurred by the city lights, and I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 10 years. I didn't know what came next. I didn't have a perfect plan or money stacked away or a career that would suddenly prove them wrong. But I had something else. I had myself, and for the first time, that felt like it was enough. The shame wasn't mine anymore. The secrets weren't mine to carry. The silence wasn't my prison. I was free of it all. I walked down the street, my breath rising in little clouds against the cold air. Each step felt stronger, firmer, like I was finally standing on my own 2 feet. For so long, I had thought I needed their love to survive. But tonight, I learned the truth. My worth was never in their hands. It was always in mine. And weeks had passed since that Christmas night, but the memory of it still lived in me, not as a wound, but as a turning point. I thought I would regret walking out, thought I would carry guilt for breaking the silence. But instead, I carried peace. The days after were quiet. No calls from my family, no messages asking if I was okay. At first, that silence stung. But slowly, it became something else. It became space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to feel who I really was without their voices telling me I was not enough. I started to notice little things. Waking up without that heavy knot in my chest. Eating a meal without the taste of shame. Looking in the mirror and seeing a man, not a failure. I didn't suddenly fix my life. I was still figuring out work, still rebuilding my confidence, still searching for where I truly belong. But for the first time, I wasn't dragging their judgment behind me. I wasn't living in their shadow. I was walking in my own light. One evening, I sat by my window with a cup of coffee, watching the snow fall outside. The world was quiet again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was calm, and I realized something. My voice, the one I had buried for so long, was finally mine again. I whispered into the stillness, testing the weight of the words. I am not ashamed of who I am. The sound was soft, but it filled the room. And in that moment, it felt like the truest thing I had ever said. I leaned back in my chair, a small smile touching my lips. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for anyone to tell me I was enough. I already knew. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. Ethan was shamed at Christmas dinner, but he stood up, spoke his truth, and finally found freedom in his own voice. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe for more great stories. See you in the next one. Bye. Do you want me to also make a short, punchy YouTube title for this story?